Welcome. My name is Michael Patches of M. Patches Photography. Today we're going to talk about what to do when getting good shots of wildlife at the zoo, but the background is distracting from the drama of your shot. In modern zoos, such as the Memphis Zoo where I shoot, they have natural backgrounds, and with attention to your angles, it can look as if you are capturing the animal in its natural habitat. But sometimes, no matter what you do, the background is intruding on the impact of the shot. In that case, I resort to post-processing to black out the background. Think of it like you had the animal in your own personal studio and you were shooting it against a black backdrop. As you can see from the photos you've been watching, all the attention is focused on either the beauty of the animal or an interesting behavior. The challenge of darkening the background behind your subject is the edge made of jagged fur or feathers. That is where the selection in Photoshop using the Refine Edge tool comes into play. So let's select one of these photos and go into Photoshop and step through the process of darkening the background. Okay, the image that I've chosen to demonstrate this technique on is this pygmy falcon that I shot at the Memphis Zoo. It's an interesting bird. It's a raptor, as you can see, but it's only about 7 inches tall. The background is not too great. We have this perch in the left-hand corner here, and we have this kind of foliage here. I think it's really distracting. But of course you can see the challenge here. These little feathers on his head or the feathers down his chest here. So what we're going to do is grab our quick select tool from the toolbar, right click on it, quick select, and you can either select the background or the subject itself. One might be easier than the other, so let's try the background right now by dragging this tool. You can see it did a pretty good selection. We have a problem right here, but we'll come back and deal with that. Let's see what we can do with the rest of it. Okay, we're going to have to fix these areas, but this is a good start. To pull these areas back out, you can see that the cursor is a plus right now. If I hold down Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac, you'll see it return to a negative sign, and you can use this to push out what's called the marching ants, so it better aligns with the bird, with the subject here. Okay, it's not bad. Let's go further here. We don't have to be exact. Just get the outline. We're going to use the Refine Edge tool for finishing this image off. Okay, this is not bad. This looks good. Right down here, we have a little gap in here. We need to move this in, and it jumped a little bit right here. Push this back in. Okay, that looks pretty good now. So we have our subject outlined as a selection. You can see it's kind of rough here where we want to grab those feathers. So the next thing we want to do is use our Refine Edge tool, which can be found under the menu bar. So we're going to click Refine Edge, and what's displayed is the mask that we created. Just a note here, these squiggly lines are single pixels that have been inadvertently selected, and we're going to get rid of those in a later step. Well, you can see here there are several different view modes, and I use different ones depending on what I'm doing. We have on white, we have on layers. We can reveal what it looked like originally. And here's an overlay showing the mask in a semi-transparent manner, which is very useful for selecting those edges. So what we want to do here is to increase our edge detection. We're going to select Smart Radius, and over here you see a little paintbrush, and you have two selections: Refine Radius Tool and Erase, which is just the opposite of it. So we're going to select Refine, and we can vary the size of our paintbrush here just like you do on regular Photoshop with your left and right bracket keys. So we can see here where our mask is not catching the feathers. So let's go ahead and try to paint in on our mask, helping Photoshop recognize where the edge is. Now we can see that's already better. Let's continue around the head where we have these spiky feathers, trying to make sure we catch the tips of those feathers. And when we let go of our mouse button, you can see we have pretty good selection right here. Let's just give that a click. That'll fix that. Okay, let's go around the other direction. Again, letting go of our button so we can see what the results are. Oh, by the way, if you want to see what you're doing, over here, Show Original, you can click back and forth, or you can use the P shortcut key to see how you're progressing on your selection. Okay, let's finish off the chest here. Coming down, showing Photoshop where that edge is, and letting go of our mouse button. Okay, you can see in several places we've sort of overpainted that a little bit, and that's going to show as a semi-transparent area. We don't want that. So just like the other tools, if we hold down Alt for the PC or Option for the Mac, we can erase those areas that we did not mean to select. Alright, make this a little smaller. Okay, right up here, I noticed area that got selected. I didn't mean to. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to go down the back here because there really is not any jagged feathers here. So that's going to give us a pretty good edge as it is. What I like to do next to even sharpen the edge further is work here with the Adjust Edge tools. Now the only two I use are the Shift Edge and the Contrast. To really see their effect, I'm going to change my view to black on white. You can see we have pretty good definition here with the feathers, but I think we can sharpen them up a little more. If you use the Shift Edge, if you go one direction, you can see it's kind of fuzzying up the edge a little more, but if you go the other direction, you can see it shifts the edge in and gives a little more definition to those feathers. And to add a little more of that sharpening to it, if you come in and hit it with some contrast, that does it even more. I kind of like that. So that looks good. So our next step is to output this mask so it's useful where we can darken the background. And you have several selections here. The one that I'm going to use to output is New Layer with a Layer Mask. Because we want to do non-destructive editing, I'm going to create a new layer. We'll have a layer mask on that layer that we can work with. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see in our layers panel here, we now have created a new layer with a layer mask. In fact, it's showing right now the transparency of the pygmy falcon that has been masked out. If I click on the background, that'll return the image. One thing we can do to look at our layer mask is if we click on our layer mask while holding the Alt key down for a PC or Option key for a Mac, we can see the layer. We can also see these errant pixels here that we're going to fix right now before we go forward. So we'll go over to our toolbar, we'll select our paintbrush, we'll make sure black is our foreground color since the mask here is black, and let's just go ahead and get rid of these pixels. Let me make my paintbrush a little bigger so this will go faster. So we'll erase those. Now, the technique of painting directly on the mask can also help you on your edges or parts of your image. If you have not been able to get it exactly like you want, you can use white and black to either conceal, black conceals, or white to reveal parts of your image that you need to. Okay, now that we've repaired our mask, we can go ahead and darken the background. Let me go over to our layers panel here, and on the top layer, I'm going to click on the image, brings the image back. Now there are many ways to darken the background now that we've got it masked out, so I'll show you one that I like to use. If you go over to the mask itself in that top layer, right click on it and select Add Mask to Selection, we get the marching ants return that is masking out our background. So let's go to the Layers menu, New Adjustment Layer, Exposure, and say OK. Now that we have our exposure controls up, we can take the exposure and lower it, and it's only lowering it on the background now because that's what we've selected. We lower it till the background is gone. And now we have a darkened background. However, we retain the details of the feathers on the head, these delicate little cheek feathers here, the jagged feathers that go down the chest. So it looks as if you brought this bird into your own studio and took a photograph of it against a black background. The reason we chose a new adjustment layer is that it's a non-destructive edit. We have this layer with a mask and the exposure control on it, so we can always go back to that property and readjust it if we need it. So we've not lost anything in our image, and we have still the capability to retrieve the image. In fact, if you look here at our layers panel, really the intermediate layer now is not needed. You could go ahead and delete that layer, and as you can see, you still have your image, you have your mask, and you have your exposure control. Well, that's it for my first YouTube video. Let me know how I did in the comments, and if you would be so kind, please subscribe to my new YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing more videos on taking wildlife shots, especially in zoos, and processing them. Also, visit my website, which is www.mpatches.com. See you next time. Bye.